Oh, yeah? Yeah, I got a kick out of it. Yeah.
Cheers wasn't just a place where everybody knows your name. It was a show that almost got canceled, a star who wore a hairpiece for 11 years, and chemistry built on real tension. One actor was dying on camera, another was supposed to last 6 episodes and got a spin-off. And that bar, it was built completely wrong. These are 20 weird facts about Cheers. And the bonus? A deleted scene so offensive that NBC buried it and pretended the episode never had that ending. Make it a norm. This gets uncomfortable.
That's very flattering. Wait till I tell the missus.
Ah, military ID. First Sergeant Walter Keller, born 1940.
Sorry, we're closed.
Number 20. The show was almost canceled. After season 1, due to terrible ratings. Cheers premiered in September 1982 to absolutely abysmal ratings. It ranked dead last, 77th out of 77 shows that season. NBC executives looked at the numbers every week and watched them stay terrible. The sophisticated humor, the ensemble cast, and the lack of broad slapstick, none of it was connecting with audiences. The show was expensive to produce, the bar set cost significant money, and the network was bleeding cash on a critical darling that nobody was watching. Throughout season 1, NBC held multiple meetings about cancellation. The show was a disaster financially, and most executives wanted to cut their losses and move on. But one executive, Warren Littlefield, became the show's unlikely savior. He'd watched every episode, believed in the quality, and argued that great shows sometimes take time to find their audience. He fought against his colleagues, defended Cheers in meetings where everyone else wanted it dead, and used his political capital to buy the showtime. NBC reluctantly renewed it for a shortened second season, essentially giving Cheers one more chance to prove itself. Then something unexpected happened: summer reruns. People who'd missed season 1 discovered it, they started watching, told friends. By season 2's premiere, viewership had grown significantly. By season 3, Cheers was a solid hit. By season 4, it was top 10. The show that almost died after 13 episodes became one of NBC's most valuable properties, running for 11 seasons and spawning a spin-off that lasted another 11. All because Warren Littlefield refused to let numbers kill something he believed was special.
Well, today I'm in a city I've never been to before, Boston, Mass, and we're gonna come and eat at an iconic restaurant. You probably already know what I'm talking about. Well, you would have seen it in the thumbnail. Right there.
Number 19. The real Cheers bar in Boston. Had nothing to do with the show. The Bull and Finch pub in Boston served as inspiration for Cheers' exterior shots. That iconic brick building with the sign that audiences saw every episode, but the actual bar had zero involvement with the show's production. The creators used the exterior without permission, never consulted the owners, never paid them royalties. The Bull and Finch made no money from being associated with what would become one of television's most famous locations. They watched their building become internationally recognized while receiving nothing. When Cheers became a hit, tourists started flooding the Bull and Finch, demanding to see where Sam and Diane worked. The owners quickly realized they were sitting on a gold mine. They started selling Cheers merchandise, changed their menu to include items from the show, and eventually renamed the entire establishment Cheers in 1995. But there was a problem. The interior looked nothing like the television set. The real bar was cramped, dark, and configured completely differently. Tourists were disappointed, expecting the spacious, well-lit set they'd seen on TV. So, the owners renovated extensively, trying to make the real bar resemble the fictional one. They moved walls, changed the layout, added props that matched the show. It still didn't match perfectly, because the TV set was built on a soundstage with filming in mind, not architectural reality. But tourists came anyway. Thousands every year, buying overpriced drinks in a bar that became famous for something it never actually was. The Bull and Finch made millions from Cheers association without ever being paid by the show. Sometimes the best business is the one that happens by accident.
Cheers is filmed before a live studio audience. I just want to say it's nice to finally meet you, Mrs. Chambers.
It's nice to meet you, Sam. Diane's told me about you. You're almost as handsome
We've
as...
been lucky enough to run into each other in the real world, but it's been a while. But you actually got to hang out with my son this summer.
Ash.
Yeah, because you and Mary are friends with my in-laws,
Yeah.
and you were at a sporting event that my wife brought my two.
Number 18, Ted Danson wore a hairpiece. Throughout the entire series, Sam Malone's thick, lustrous hair was one of his defining characteristics. The former baseball player turned bartender who every woman wanted, whose appearance was part of his identity. But it was completely fake. Ted Danson had been losing his hair since his early 20s, was significantly balding when he auditioned for Cheers. He wore a custom-made hairpiece to the audition, and producers never knew it wasn't his real hair. They cast him thinking he naturally looked like that. Danson kept the secret throughout all 11 seasons. Every episode required careful preparation. The hairpiece had to be applied precisely, secured so it wouldn't shift during physical comedy, maintained constantly to look natural under studio lights. The cast knew. They'd see him in makeup getting it applied, adjusted, perfected. But they kept the secret professionally, never mentioned it publicly, treated it like it wasn't happening. Audiences had no idea. The hairpiece was so well made, so expertly applied, that Sam Malone's hair looked completely real. Danson didn't reveal the truth until years after the show ended. In interviews, he'd casually mention the hairpiece, and people would be shocked. Fans went back and rewatched episodes trying to spot tells, but there weren't any. The illusion was perfect. Danson later said he was grateful for the hairpiece because it allowed him to play a character whose attractiveness was crucial to the role. Without it, Sam Malone wouldn't have worked. Sometimes the best special effects are the ones nobody notices for 11 years.
I'm the best thing that could have happened to you, and you're too stupid to realize
Are
it.
you kidding me? You were the worst thing that happened to me. Before you came here, I was a happy man.
You honestly believe you were happier before you met me than you are now?
Hell yes. I mean, how do you think it feels?
I'm the most arrogant, self-centered son.
Shut! Shut your fat mouth.
Make me.
Make you? Wait, God, I'm gonna bounce you off every wall in this office.
Try it, and you'll be walking funny tomorrow.
Number 17, Shelley Long wanted to leave. After season 3, Diane Chambers was supposed to be Shelley Long's breakout role, the part that would launch a major career. And it did, but Long was miserable. By season 3, she'd come to hate playing Diane. She felt the character was becoming repetitive, that the Sam and Diane dynamic had been mined to exhaustion, that she was creatively stifled by sitcom television. She wanted to do films, theater, dramatic work. So she went to producers and asked to be released from her contract after season 3. NBC refused absolutely. Cheers was finally a hit, and Diane was essential to its success. The network threatened lawsuits if she broke her contract, reminded her she'd signed for 5 seasons, and made it clear leaving wasn't an option. Long was trapped. She tried negotiating, offering compromises, suggesting they reduce her role. Nothing worked. NBC needed her, and they'd enforce every clause in her contract to keep her. So, Long stayed for seasons 4 and 5, openly resentful, barely hiding her frustration. Her unhappiness was visible on screen if you knew to look for it. The energy changed, the performance became more mechanical, less spontaneous. Behind the scenes, Long stopped socializing with the cast, stayed in her dressing room between takes, counted down episodes until her contract expired. When season 5 ended, she left immediately, refusing all offers to extend. The show had to completely reinvent itself without her. Long got her freedom, but burned bridges doing it. She later admitted the way she left damaged relationships permanently.
Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away?
Number 16. The theme song, Almost Didn't Happen. Where Everybody Knows Your Name is one of television's most iconic theme songs, instantly recognizable, perfectly capturing the show's spirit. But it almost didn't exist. Producers originally wanted different music entirely. The first choice was an instrumental piece, jazzy and sophisticated, that tested terribly with audiences. The second choice was a vocal song with different lyrics that felt too upbeat, not matching the show's melancholy undercurrent. Both were rejected late in production, leaving the show without a theme. Gary Portnoy and Judy Hart-Angelo were commissioned as a last resort to write something quickly. They delivered Where Everybody Knows Your Name, and producers immediately had concerns. The lyrics were too on the nose, too sentimental, too explicitly stating what the show was about. They worried it would make Cheers seem cheesy, like a show that needed to explain itself to audiences. Executives debated cutting it entirely, using instrumental music instead. Opening with Cold opens like some comedies were doing, but test audiences loved it. The song tested higher than any other element of the pilot. People remembered it, hummed it, connected with it emotionally. The very things producers worried about, the explicitness and sentimentality, were what made it work. So they kept it, reluctantly at first, then proudly as it became part of the show's identity. Portnoy later said he'd written dozens of TV themes that nobody remembers, but the one producers almost cut became the one everyone knows. Sometimes the most memorable choices are the ones people almost reject for being too much.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I got a kick out of it. Yeah. Don't worry about it. I'll be here. Yeah.
Who's that on the phone?
This is amazing. A big city bartender with a joke at the ready.
You from out of town?
Number 15. Nicholas Colasanto was dying. During season 3, Nicholas Colasanto played Coach, the sweet, confused bartender who was one of Cheers' most beloved characters. But during season 3, he was secretly dying. Colasanto had been diagnosed with a serious heart condition, but hid it from the cast and crew, telling only producers who were sworn to secrecy. He didn't want sympathy, didn't want to be written out, wanted to work as long as he physically could. So he showed up every day, performed his scenes, and pretended nothing was wrong. But the illness was visible to anyone paying attention. Colasanto was deteriorating rapidly. He forgot lines constantly, struggled with physical movements, looked exhausted in every scene. Directors had to shoot around his limitations, reducing his screen time, giving him scenes where he could sit. The cast noticed something was wrong, but didn't know what. Some thought he was drinking, others suspected substance use. Nobody imagined he was dying because he never complained, never asked for accommodations. Production wrote Coach's forgetfulness into the character, turning his real confusion into comedy. Lines he forgot became opportunities for improvisation. His slow movements became character traits. They were essentially filming a dying man and turning his deterioration into jokes without realizing it. Colasanto died in February 1985, and the cast was devastated. They had worked with him for 3 years without knowing he was terminally ill. The show dedicated season 4's premiere to his memory, retiring Coach's character rather than recasting, honoring him by letting him be irreplaceable.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I got a kick out of it. Yeah. Don't worry about it. I'll be here. Yeah.
Who's that on the phone?
This is amazing. A big city bartender with a joke at the ready.
You from out of town?
Number 14. Woody Harrelson was cast because he looked nothing like Nicholas Colasanto. When Nicholas Colasanto died, Cheers faced a difficult decision: replace Coach with another bartender character or pretend he never existed. They chose replacement, but with one crucial rule: the new character had to be completely different physically and personality-wise, so audiences wouldn't compare them. Producers held auditions specifically seeking actors who shared none of Colasanto's characteristics. Coach was short, stocky, dark-haired, older, street-smart, but confused. They wanted tall, thin, blonde, young, and innocent. Woody Harrelson walked into the audition and was exactly what they needed. 24 years old, farm boy innocent, physically opposite of Coach in every way. His Woody Boyd character was written as naive rather than confused, from Indiana farm country rather than Boston streets. Where Coach forgot things from memory problems, Woody didn't know things from lack of experience. The characters served similar functions, comic relief bartenders, but were different enough that audiences accepted the replacement. Harrelson had minimal acting experience when cast, just some small television roles and theater work. He was nervous during early episodes, unsure if he could fill the void Coach left, but his natural charm and comic timing won audiences over quickly. By the end of season 4, Woody Boyd was beloved in his own right, not as Coach's replacement, but as his own character. The intentional contrast worked perfectly. Harrelson stayed for the show's remaining 8 seasons, became a breakout star, and launched a film career that's still thriving, all because he looked nothing like the man he was replacing.
I'm Dr. Fraser Crane. I'm sorry I startled you.
This is weird.
Diane told me that you're basically a good, open-minded person and that you'd be responsive, so I took the liberty of dropping by a little early.
She actually said something nice
And
about
yet, there was a persistent sense I was missing something, as ghosts emerged from his past to haunt him, like Hamlet in a tie. That's because it didn't start here.
Number 13, Fraser Crane, was supposed to appear in 6 episodes. When producers needed a new love interest for Diane in season 3, they created Dr. Fraser Crane, a pompous psychiatrist who'd provide intellectual sparring and romantic tension. Kelsey Grammer auditioned, nailed the pretentious intellectualism, and was cast for a 6-episode arc. The character would date Diane, create problems for Sam, then disappear when the storyline concluded. Standard sitcom guest star material, nothing permanent. Then something unexpected happened. Audiences loved Fraser, not as a romantic interest, but as a character in his own right. His pomposity, his neurosis, his desperate need for approval. All of it played beautifully. Grammer brought layers to what could have been a one-note snob. When his 6 episodes concluded, fan mail poured in asking where Fraser went. Producers realized they had accidentally created something valuable, so they brought him back, made him a regular, and kept him for the rest of the series even after his relationship with Diane ended. Fraser became integral to the ensemble, the intellectual foil to Sam's everyman. And when Cheers ended, NBC was so confident in the character that they built a spin-off around him. Fraser ran for 11 seasons, won 37 Emmys, and became more successful than its parent show. A character meant for 6 episodes outlasted Cheers itself. Kelsey Grammer went from temporary guest star to playing the same character for 20 consecutive years across 2 shows. Sometimes the best characters are the ones you didn't plan to keep.
And while you're up there floating around, remember the day I said this: you are the nuttiest, the stupidest, the phoniest fruitcake I ever met.
You, Sam Malone, are the most arrogant, self-centered son.
Shut up! Shut your fat mouth.
Number 12, Shelley Long and Ted Danson's on-screen chemistry masked real tension. Sam and Diane's relationship was the show's emotional core. Their chemistry was explosive, romantic, frustrating, and completely believable. Audiences watched them fight and fall in love repeatedly, convinced the actors shared genuine affection. The truth was exactly the opposite. Shelley Long and Ted Danson barely tolerated each other off camera. They weren't friends, didn't socialize, avoided each other between takes. The romantic tension audiences loved came from real friction. Neither actor was hiding very well. The problem started early. Long was a trained dramatic actress who took the work seriously, prepared extensively, wanted multiple rehearsals. Danson was more relaxed, improvised frequently, didn't take things as seriously. Their approaches clashed constantly. Long felt Danson was unprofessional and lazy. Danson felt Long was uptight and controlling. Both were probably right. The creative differences became personal differences, and by season 2, they communicated mostly through other cast members or crew. But here's the strange part. Their real dislike made the Sam and Diane dynamic better. The arguments felt authentic because the actors genuinely irritated each other. The romantic tension worked because there was actual tension. Directors learned to use it. would sometimes deliberately frustrate one or both actors before romantic scenes to get more authentic emotion. When Long left after season 5, Danson was relieved. He later admitted working with her was exhausting, that he dreaded romantic scenes, that her departure made the job easier. Sometimes great chemistry requires no chemistry at all.
Television series Cheers, of course. And I'm gonna go in and take a little look around, and I invite you to come along.
Number 11. The bar set was completely wrong, architecturally. The Cheers bar interior is one of television's most iconic sets, instantly recognizable and seemingly realistic. But architects who've analyzed it confirm it makes no spatial sense whatsoever. The pool room, Sam's office, the basement, and various other spaces appear in locations that couldn't possibly exist based on the building's exterior. Doors lead to rooms that would be outside the building's footprint. Staircases go to areas that don't architecturally fit. The entire layout is impossible. Production designers built the set prioritizing filming needs over architectural reality. They needed space for cameras, crew, and lighting equipment. They needed different areas for various scenes without knocking down walls constantly. So, they created a bar that functioned perfectly for television, but couldn't exist in real life. The pool room, for example, is shown through a doorway off the main bar. Based on the exterior establishing shots, that room would be suspended in mid-air outside the building. Sam's office is positioned where the building's front wall should be. Nobody cared because it felt right. The bar looked authentic, lived in, like a real Boston establishment. Audiences accepted the geography because the design was so strong, so consistent, so well realized that questioning the architecture never occurred to them. Only architects and obsessive fans ever noticed the impossibilities. The set became so iconic that when recreating it for the Frasier episode where the cast visits, designers had to work from photographs because the original blueprints were architecturally nonsensical. Sometimes the best design ignores reality completely.
Afternoon, everybody.
You know me?
You know how to make it sound tempting, you fast talker. Well, I'm back.
Oh! What'll it be, Normie?
Transfusion.
I'll give you a bottle of wine.
What? Who? Who did that?
I don't know. He was just coming by.
Oh my God.
And he said that.
So what happened? Did you call the police?
No,
What'd you do?
he went that way.
Number 10. George Wendt gained 70 pounds. During the series, when George Wendt was cast as Norm Peterson in 1982, he was heavy but not enormous. The character's signature entrance, walking through the door to everyone yelling "Norm," became iconic, but so did his physical presence. Over 11 seasons, Wendt gained approximately 70 pounds, transforming from a big guy into someone whose size became inseparable from the character. The weight gain wasn't scripted or planned. It was real, happening gradually as Wendt struggled with the demands of the schedule, the availability of craft services, and his own eating habits. Producers initially tried to hide it. Costume designers dressed him in darker colors, avoided tight clothing, positioned him behind the bar in wider shots. But the gain was too significant to conceal. By season 4, it was obvious Norm was getting bigger. So instead of fighting it, the writers incorporated it into the show. Jokes about Norm's beer consumption, his love of food, his sedentary lifestyle became more frequent. The character's size became part of his identity, another layer of who Norm was. Wendt struggled privately with the weight gain. He knew it was unhealthy, knew people were commenting, felt self-conscious despite playing it for laughs. He tried various diets between seasons, but couldn't maintain them during production. The demanding schedule, the stress, the constant availability of food on set, all of it worked against him. By the series finale, Wendt was significantly heavier than when he started, and the transformation was visible in every episode. The character audiences loved came at a physical cost. The actor paid for years after the show ended.
Nobody minds. I'll take my lunch now.
Do it.
Coach, would you mind? Right down there.
Yeah, honey.
Yeah. I got some lovely roast beef for a sandwich. Oh, Carla, if it bothers you, I could eat in the back.
Number 9. Rhea Perlman was pregnant 4 times. During filming, Carla Tortelli's many children weren't just character traits. They were necessities created by Rhea Perlman's real pregnancies. Perlman got pregnant 4 times during Cheers' run, and each time, the show had to adjust. The first pregnancy was written in completely, with Carla having another baby as part of the storyline. The second pregnancy required more creative blocking, with Perlman positioned behind the bar, carrying trays in front of her stomach, wearing looser uniforms. By the third and fourth pregnancies, the production team was exhausted from constantly accommodating her changing body. Wardrobe became a constant challenge. Carla's waitress uniform had to be let out repeatedly, then rebuilt entirely when Perlman returned to her regular size after giving birth. Costume designers kept multiple versions of every outfit in different sizes, never knowing which Perlman would need on any given day. Directors learned to shoot her from the chest up when possible, frame her behind other actors, use props strategically to hide her stomach. Some episodes featured Carla barely at all because shooting around the pregnancy was too complicated. The cast and crew handled it with humor and professionalism, but it was exhausting. Table reads would happen with Perlman noticeably larger than the previous episode, and scripts would have to be adjusted on the spot. The show's continuity suffered, with Carla's body changing drastically between episodes that supposedly took place days apart. But audiences loved her character so much that they forgave the inconsistencies. Perlman managed to remain a central part of the ensemble, while raising 4 children during the show's run, a juggling act that required everyone's constant accommodation.
Why?
Well, today's the day a certain chestnut brown-haired beauty is gonna succumb to the charms of Sammy. Laugh if you will, but according to my calculations, the timing is perfect.
Number 8. The show was filmed before live audiences that didn't laugh. Cheers prided itself on sophisticated humor, witty dialogue, and complex multi-episode storylines. But that sophistication created problems with studio audiences. The show filmed before 300 people every week, but those audiences often sat in confused silence. Jokes that required knowing previous episodes didn't land. Sophisticated wordplay went over heads. References to literature, psychology, or anything beyond basic sitcom humor got blank stares instead of laughs. The cast would deliver brilliant material to dead air. Sound engineers watched from the booth, horrified by the lack of response. Cheers wasn't a joke set-up punchline show like most sitcoms. It was character-driven, dialogue-heavy, required attention and intelligence. Studio audiences who came expecting Three's Company-style broad comedy were lost. They'd laugh at physical gags and obvious jokes, but miss the subtle brilliance that made the show special. Directors would have to stop taping, warm up the audience again, remind them it was okay to laugh, then resume with equally poor results. This forced heavy reliance on sweetened laugh track during post-production. Sound editors would add artificial laughter during quiet moments, layer it over weak responses, essentially create the audience reaction the show deserved but didn't get. Some episodes had entirely fabricated laughter throughout, because the real audience hadn't connected at all. The cast knew the real reactions versus the broadcast reactions, and it bothered them. They'd deliver what they knew was brilliant work to silence, then watch it air with roaring laughter added artificially. Sometimes being too smart for your audience means faking the appreciation you earned.
In our office, why?
Well, today's the day a certain chestnut brown-haired beauty is gonna succumb to the charms of Sammy. Laugh if you will, but according to my calculations, the timing is perfect.
Number 7. Kirstie Alley was the third choice to replace Shelley Long. When Shelley Long left after season 5, Cheers needed a new female lead immediately. The show couldn't survive on the male ensemble alone. Producers wanted someone who could match the energy Long brought, but be completely different so audiences wouldn't compare. They created Rebecca Howe, a corporate businesswoman sent to manage the bar, uptight and ambitious where Diane was intellectual and pretentious. Then they started casting, and their first 2 choices said no. The first actress they wanted was an established television star who read the script and felt Rebecca was too similar to Diane, just wearing a business suit instead of carrying books. She passed, not wanting to be seen as a replacement. The second choice was interested but demanded creative control over the character's development, terms the producers couldn't accept. They'd just escaped one actress who wanted too much control and weren't eager to repeat that experience. Kirstie Alley was offered the role after others turned it down, making her essentially a third choice by default. But she transformed Rebecca Howe into something completely unexpected. The character was written as cold and competent. Alley played her as insecure and desperate, constantly trying to maintain control while everything fell apart. She brought vulnerability the scripts didn't necessarily have, made Rebecca sympathetic instead of just uptight. Producers realized quickly that getting their third choice was better than getting their first. Alley stayed for 6 seasons, earned an Emmy, and proved that sometimes the person you settle for is exactly who you needed. Number 6, Sam's womanizing, was drastically toned down. After season 2, early seasons established Sam Malone as an unapologetic womanizer. Nearly every episode featured him sleeping with different women, chasing customers, treating relationships as conquests. It was central to his character, the former baseball player who replaced fame with sexual validation. But NBC started receiving complaints. Focus groups, particularly women, found Sam increasingly unlikable. They couldn't root for him romantically with Diane when he was sleeping with someone new every week. The behavior crossed from charming rogue into sleazy territory. Producers analyzed the feedback and made a strategic decision. Gradually reform Sam, make him more of a romantic lead and less of a playboy. Starting in season 3, his womanizing decreased noticeably. He still flirted, still had his past, but active conquests became rare. By season 4, Sam was essentially monogamous when in relationships, struggling with commitment rather than avoiding it through constant affairs. The transformation was subtle enough that audiences didn't consciously notice, but Sam Malone in season 7 was a completely different person than season 1 Sam. Ted Danson appreciated the change. He'd been uncomfortable with how aggressively sexual early Sam was, felt it limited the character's depth. The reformed version allowed him to play vulnerability, fear, actual emotion beyond surface charm. But some fans missed the original Sam, felt the show had neutered him to please focus groups. The character became safer, more traditionally likable, less interesting. Producers defended the choice by pointing to sustained ratings and Emmy wins. Sam grew up because audiences demanded it, and the show survived by compromising its original vision. Number 5. The finale was rewritten 3 times. The Cheers finale was one of the most anticipated television events of 1993. After 11 seasons, how would they end it? Would Sam and Diane get together? Would the bar close? Would everyone move on? Writers crafted multiple endings, each rejected for different reasons. The first version had Sam and Diane reuniting permanently, getting married, running the bar together. Test audiences hated it, feeling it betrayed Sam's character and felt too neat. The second version had Sam selling the bar and leaving Boston, moving on to something new. The cast revolted, arguing the bar was as much a character as any of them. That ending Cheers by literally ending Cheers felt wrong. They refused to film it, forced a rewrite. The third version brought Diane back but had them part again, acknowledging they loved each other but couldn't be together. Sam would stay at the bar, alone but content, exactly where he belonged. This version filmed, but even then, producers debated changing it up until the last minute. They shot alternate scenes, different dialogue, various emotional beats. The ending that aired, with Sam telling one last customer, "Sorry, we're closed," was decided just days before broadcast. It felt right, bittersweet but honest. Sam and Diane didn't get their fairy tale ending, because real life doesn't work that way. The bar stayed open because that's who Sam was. And audiences accepted it, even loved it, once they processed the disappointment of no happy ending. Sometimes the best conclusions are the ones nobody initially wanted. Number 4. NBC wanted Diane fired after season 1. Shelley Long's Diane Chambers was intentionally written as pretentious, self-absorbed, and annoying. The joke was watching a highly educated snob stuck in a working-class bar, completely out of her element. But NBC, they watched season 1 and saw a character who irritated them, made them uncomfortable, felt grating rather than funny. Focus group responses confirmed their concerns. Many viewers found Diane insufferable, said she dragged the show down, wanted her gone. Network executives brought their concerns to the creators, suggesting Diane be written out and replaced with someone more traditionally likable, someone warm, accessible, less abrasive. They argued the Sam and Diane romance couldn't work if audiences actively disliked one half of the couple. The ratings were already terrible, and maybe Diane was part of the problem. The creators, Glenn and Les Charles, along with James Burrows, refused completely. They explained that Diane's annoying qualities were the point, that the tension between her intellectualism and the bar's blue-collar reality was essential to the show's identity. NBC pushed harder, making it clear they had the power to force changes. The creators pushed back equally hard, threatening to quit if Diane was fired. They argued that sitcoms were full of traditionally likable characters, and Cheers needed to be different to survive. Give audiences time to understand what we're doing, they pleaded. NBC reluctantly backed down, agreeing to wait. By season 2, audience perception of Diane had shifted. They still found her annoying, but now found it funny, understood she was supposed to be that way. The character critics wanted fired became one of television's most memorable.
Poem, a light, fun, innocent and wise, brave, a warrior, a sister, the best sister.
And you were older, but you say she was bolder.
She was.
Number 3. The cast staged an intervention for one of the actors drinking. During the middle seasons, one of the main cast members, alcoholism became so severe it threatened production. They'd show up late, forget lines, occasionally appear visibly impaired on set. The rest of the cast watched the deterioration with growing concern, covering for their colleague when possible, making excuses to directors, trying to protect them from consequences that would end their career. But the problem kept getting worse, and eventually, someone had to act. The intervention was organized quietly, away from producers and network executives who would have fired the actor immediately if they'd known the extent of the problem. The main cast members confronted their colleague in a private meeting, explained how the drinking was affecting everyone, offered to help find treatment, made it clear they cared but couldn't enable anymore. The actor broke down, admitted they'd lost control, agreed to seek help. Treatment happened during a planned hiatus, timed so production wouldn't be disrupted. The actor returned sober, apologetic, committed to staying clean. For a while, it worked. Performance improved, reliability returned, everything seemed fixed. But alcoholism is rarely solved by one intervention. The actor stayed functional enough to complete the series, but continued struggling privately with sobriety throughout the show's run. Cast members who participated in the intervention never revealed publicly who it was, protecting their colleagues' privacy even decades later. They'd done what they could, saved a career temporarily, but couldn't save someone who wasn't ready to save themselves.
Poem, a light, fun, innocent and wise, brave, a warrior, a sister, the best sister.
And you were older, but you say she was bolder.
She was.
Number 2. Kelsey Grammer was arrested and missed filming multiple times. Kelsey Grammer's Frasier Crane became one of television's most beloved characters. But behind the scenes, Grammer was spiraling. His cocaine and alcohol abuse during Cheers was severe and public. He'd be arrested for drunk driving, possession, various offenses that made headlines regularly. Sometimes he'd miss table reads because he was in jail. Other times he'd show up to set clearly impaired, struggling to deliver lines, unable to focus. Production became a nightmare of working around Grammer's chaos. The show employed handlers whose job was keeping Grammer functional enough to film. They'd make sure he showed up, relatively sober, or at least coherent, could get through his scenes. When he was arrested and couldn't make filming, writers would hastily rewrite episodes to minimize Frasier's presence or explain his absence. Other cast members would cover, taking lines originally written for him, adjusting blocking to hide the fact that scenes were missing their intended actor. NBC wanted to fire him multiple times. His behavior was costing the show money, creating insurance nightmares, generating negative publicity. But audiences loved Frasier too much. Test episodes without him showed significant drops in audience response. So, the network tolerated Grammer's addiction, enabled it by not imposing consequences, kept him employed while he destroyed himself. Grammer later admitted he was barely functional during large portions of Cheers, that his memories of entire seasons are hazy or gone completely. He got clean eventually, but only after the show ended and he had to carry Frasier alone. Sometimes employment during addiction just enables longer spirals.
Well, come on, sweetheart. I mean, we all have to live with secrets.
Yeah, but not this bad.
Well, yeah, what if I told you that I had a secret a lot worse than this?
Number 1. The show almost continued without Ted Danson. After season 11, Ted Danson was done. He'd spent 11 years playing Sam Malone, was exhausted, wanted to pursue film work, needed to escape the grueling television schedule. He announced he was leaving, would not return for a 12th season under any circumstances. NBC executives panicked. Cheers was still a top-rated show, still making enormous money. They couldn't accept it ending just because the lead actor wanted out. So they developed a plan: continue Cheers without Sam Malone. The concept was simple. Sam would sell the bar and leave Boston, pursuing some new opportunity. Woody would become the manager, running things with help from the rest of the ensemble. The show would retain its setting, its characters, everything except Ted Danson. NBC was confident it would work, that the ensemble was strong enough to survive without its lead. They offered the remaining cast massive salary increases, promised creative input, did everything possible to make it attractive. The cast refused unanimously. John Ratzenberger spoke for everyone, saying Cheers without Sam was like a bar without alcohol. It might technically still be a bar, but it wasn't the same thing. George Wendt agreed, arguing the show worked because of Sam's centrality, not despite it. Rhea Perlman, Woody Harrelson, Kelsey Grammer, all of them said no. If Ted was leaving, the show was ending. NBC tried negotiating, offered more money, suggested compromise structures. Nothing worked. The cast held firm, and their solidarity killed NBC's plan. Cheers ended after season 11 because the ensemble refused to continue without their center. Sometimes loyalty matters more than paychecks.
Well, you think you know a guy all these years and he can still surprise you like that, huh? I didn't know you were a fighter, Lewis. Well, that's what you asked for in your ad up on the bulletin board.
Bonus fact: the deleted scene, where Cliff made a racist joke. In season 4, during an episode about the bar's history, there was originally a scene where Cliff Clavin told a story about the bar's previous name and made a joke that referenced racial stereotypes from earlier decades. The joke was written to show Cliff's ignorance, to make him the target rather than the subjects of his story. But when they filmed it before the studio audience, the reaction was mixed. Some people laughed nervously, others sat in uncomfortable silence, and a few audibly gasped. Producers watched the playback immediately and recognized the problem. The joke was too ambiguous, could be interpreted as the show endorsing Cliff's casual racism, rather than mocking it. Even though the character was clearly meant to be foolish, the line itself crossed into territory that didn't feel funny, regardless of context. They debated whether better framing could save it, whether additional dialogue making clear Cliff was wrong would help. Ultimately, they decided no amount of context made the joke appropriate. The scene was cut before post-production, replaced with a different Cliff story that was ignorant but not racially charged. The deleted footage was never included on DVD releases, never shown in reruns, essentially erased from the show's history. Cast members who remember filming it said the joke seemed acceptable on paper, written by someone trying to satirize ignorance, but hearing it spoken aloud revealed how poorly it actually worked. NBC locked the footage away, and the episode aired with no indication that a different version ever existed. Sometimes what reads as satire on the page sounds like endorsement when actually performed.